Hey y'all, so I am late. I am so sorry. I knew I probably should not try to set a specific time, knowing that all things at work are completely unpredictable in this moment. But I did want to take a moment to kind of catch up. I am waiting on my laptop to get its life together. So hopefully my campaign staffer can tell me what your questions are, because I do want to have a quick kind of chat about some things. I know that I've not gone live since all of the drama has unfolded. I know you're probably like, which drama? Because there's nothing but drama. So let's just dig into it. Number one, we saw what took place in Utah with Charlie Kirk. And frankly, so many of you were hitting me like, who is Charlie Kirk? And so many people that follow me don't necessarily follow him. And so, as people have begun to kind of learn more about him and things that he said, now we see the cancel culture is in. And not only is it a matter of people trying to get people to lose their jobs simply because I guess they're not mourning properly, but we also see that this particular president has decided that he wants to weaponize our federal government again against his people, because that's what he loves to do. But he's decided that he wants to weaponize our government against people and completely ignore their free speech, because clearly free speech isn't free anymore. And it is only free so long as you are saying what it is that they want you to say. Anything else is canceled. I mean, we saw it with Stephen Colbert. We've seen it with Joy Reid. We've seen it with Katie Fain. We've seen it with so many people that it's like, if you have an opinion, which probably is based in facts or data or science, as we saw, he got rid of the person that was heading labor and statistics because he didn't like the jobs numbers. So instead of fixing the job numbers, he decided he would just get rid of them. And so this is a very dangerous road that we're headed down as relates to our democracy. This is to say, I already put out my statement. I denounce all violence, like generally, like I kind of think that that's what most of us would do. I do think that it is problematic that we've only talked about one kind of violent incident. And sadly enough, on that same day, we saw students that were shot at their schools in Colorado. No conversation, no moment of silence. We also know that there are not one, but two people that have been lynched in Mississippi just a couple of days ago, right? No conversation about that. It seems like everything in our media is dominated by what I will absolutely say a very tragic event. We don't have any other violence that we want to talk about. We don't have any other problems that we want to talk about. And there's nothing but retribution for people that say we're not on the same page with Charlie Kirk. That's absolutely insane. And it's counter to what the Constitution stands for. So I am going to tell y'all two more things about this, and then I'm moving on, because in general, we need to kind of keep it moving and make sure that we are taking up all things that are important and not just focusing on one tragic event. So there was a young lady down in Texas who was arrested, according to our governor, as he's a trained attorney and I am too. Allegedly, she was charged with a Class C misdemeanor assault in the aftermath of all the craziness of Charlie Kirk. Just so y'all know, a Class C never requires handcuffs. A Class C is what you get for speeding. It's a ticket. So not really sure what that's about. The only video footage that I saw did not include her making contact with anyone. So I'd be interested to see if there's any video footage of her making contact. But also the idea that she has a mugshot for something that's not even punishable by jail time is truly wild. Because if you will recall, the 34 count convicted felon that is sitting in the White House right now somehow didn't necessarily have to take mugshots for all of the arrests that he had. But that's neither here nor there. So that's that. The second part of this that I think is more important to talk about is that when everything was unfolding and no one really knew what was going on, who did what, why, that kind of stuff, I received so many text messages from people that truly care about me and my safety. And they were saying things like, are you okay? Like, for them, it just kind of went for safety of somebody who is very outspoken. So they were asking, like, are you okay? Are you okay? So I was getting these text messages. And then I got a message from a Republican. And the message was simple. I love you. So I want y'all to understand. I always focus on the facts when I'm in committee. Now, y'all can receive those facts however y'all want to receive those facts. But if you're doing wrong, no matter who you are, I'm going to say something about it, right? But like literally people are like posted up on the internet, not having real connection in life and not understanding that some people literally just be out in these streets to rile people up. But at the end of the day, it was a Republican of all members. He was the first member of Congress to send me a simple message that just said, I love you. And I knew what that was about. I knew that in that moment, he too thought of my safety. So I don't want y'all catching cases, getting like riled up and all this other nonsense when like behind closed doors. Now, I can't say I've ever received a message like that from Marjorie. Y'all know she ain't sending me no love messages, okay? Because y'all, I mean, yes, right? But I want you to understand that like the fact that my staff had to endure all of these hateful calls as it relates to Charlie Kirk, like if we're going to talk about accountability, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that political violence is on a rise and that I consistently have to deal with death threats. And they're not coming from the radical left or whatever you want to call it or whatever. Like, that's not a thing. Let's also talk about the fact that, like, Republicans are not on one page. You've got all these random sects. And when I look at some of my colleagues that ended up deciding that they weren't going to run for re-election, even now deciding that they're not going to run for re-election, it is because of the cult mentality. It is because they're like, this doesn't really subscribe to, like, what I believe in. And we have had members on that side of the aisle that have received threats from other people that are supposedly on the same side of the aisle. And some people have just decided that it's not worth it. I can tell you, there's not been any threats coming from within my party. There may be people that have strong feelings about me within my party, but no threats. And I also just, again, want to caution people and let them know that, like, just because I attack your policies over and over and over because they are harming people, even they don't see what I do as something worthy of physically attacking me. Except for, obviously, y'all know Nancy Mace tried to have her little moment. But instead, it is messages of love. I remember walking in and another random Republican was just like, hey, I want to know how you're doing. Because even they know the amount of threats and targets that end up on my back simply because I decided to show up and bring facts and data to the fight and be a voice that hopefully is reflective of the will of my district that I serve in Texas 30. So I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. I then want to move on and talk about Kash Patel. I'm not going to spend too much time on him, but I am going to talk about Kash Patel. He is actually coming before Judiciary Committee tomorrow, so I have to get off of here and make sure that I am prepared for committee hearings. So that means that I need to sit and watch all that unfolded today on the Senate side. and then decide exactly how I'm going to approach this. But I will tell you, kind of a continuation of the Charlie Kirk situation. He is unqualified to serve, and I am going to do my best to show that he never, ever should have been confirmed by the Senate to that post, and that having him in that post of leadership is a danger to all of us. Maybe they recognize it now, but the facts are that the shooter allegedly confessed online, and literally the FBI still did not have any leads as to who it is that had committed the crime. Incompetence on display. And that's not to mention that you went out and you said you had your man twice and you were wrong. And then when your man confessed, you had nothing. So it's absolutely insane. So we are going to try to make sure that for those that don't understand, cash ain't ready. Okay. So definitely got to get ready for that. So working on that tomorrow. Other than that, what else did I want to talk about? I think that's pretty much it. Hopefully. Oh, shutdown. I want to talk about shutdown. So for all of you that are paying attention, every September 30th, we go through this and we don't know whether or not there will be a shutdown or not. It's usually on the Republicans, whether or not the government is going to govern. They're not really a fan of governing. So just so y'all know, the Republicans have the White House, they have the U.S. House, they have the U.S. Senate. They can do whatever they want to. They don't need us. So when they try to flip the script, if we shut down on Democrats because we decided not to give them the votes that they need because they can't get them with their own people, that's their problem. Y'all go figure it out. But signing up to do more harm is not really on my agenda. So we'll let them figure that out. Who knows what they're going to do. But the deadline is September 30th, and they just dropped the language for the continuing resolution. So we will see what happens and whether or not they are able to get that done. I think that's it. So if y'all want to ask a few questions, I'll take them. Oh, Epstein files. Somebody said something about Epstein files. All right. Sorry. Very good point. The Epstein files. So obviously, this has allowed the media to move on a little bit. This being the Charlie Kirk shooting. And so now they're spending their time on that instead of talking about the Epstein files. But I can tell you that the Democrats are supplying the vast majority of the signatures needed on the discharge petition. We are now at 217 of the 218 signatures that we need. No matter what the Republicans do, come next week, I think on the 23rd, there will be a special election in Arizona where the Democrat is going to win. This is to fill one of the 3 vacancies that was left due to the 3 deaths that we had on our side of the aisle since January, and our last seat won't be filled out of Houston until the end of the year, which is really crazy because Sylvester Turner was the first one to pass away. But we just filled 1 seat this week, or last week. Last week we filled 1, and so that's how we got to the 217. And then next week we will fill another, and so we will have the 218 signatures that are necessary to actually bring that to a full vote of the House. We have not received any additional information to oversight from the DOJ. And I can tell you that the survivors are strong and they have found their voices in unison. And so I think you're going to hear some more from them really, really soon. But, Democrats signed off because we don't really care your political affiliation if you're engaged in this type of behavior. We don't care. We don't care. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And I think that's a big problem that we're having right now is that they act like they don't know the difference between right and wrong. And frankly, the way that they are acting, they don't. Okay. Anything else? Do you think the Republicans will wake up and stand for democracy? No. Unredacted files? No, I don't see them doing that. what's next for you on the redistricting ordered? Yes, redistricting. Okay, so on redistricting, we are going to have a hearing on October 1st. It actually begins on October 1st. And that hearing will be to determine whether or not the court is going to temporarily stop the new map from going into effect immediately, meaning for the 2026 term. We will see what happens. That is a hearing that has to wrap up rather quickly to meet some deadlines and that kind of stuff. But we will see. So don't know if it's going to be these new lines that they drew that we will have to run under, or if it will be the old lines. Yes, of the lynchings, one gentleman was black. It was a black student. And then the other one was actually Caucasian, or he appeared to be Caucasian. And I don't know what the sentiment was. We do know that the Caucasian gentleman was unhoused. And this came after a very inflammatory statement was made about how unhoused people should die. And then the other one, literally like hung from a tree. Just a young black student. And it doesn't seem like local authorities want to investigate. And both of these took place in Mississippi. Yes, so was Trey at Delta State. Yep. I think that's all y'all got right now. Okay, perfect. So I just want to say stay safe. Really start to get to know your neighbors. It's one of the things that I've been like really pushing for, is that I believe if people get away from being behind the computer screens and get into reality, that it's a lot harder to hate somebody if you know them. So, do your best every once in a while. I've been at a couple of events and I've asked people, did you even speak to your neighbor that's sitting next to you? Right? Like, let's find a little bit of the Southern charm and let's at least start to engage people, because we are really struggling right now and the division is so strong. And, it doesn't mean that I'm going to quiet down whatsoever, because wrong is wrong. And I have a moral compass and I will continue to stand in that authority. And I want you all to still remain resolute in your stances and understanding what is right and what is wrong, and understanding that hating people because of where they were born, or hating people because of the amount of melanin, or hating people because of their accent, or hating people because of who they love, or hating people because of their religious affiliation, like none of that is of God. Period. Like, the hate has to stop. Like, in the idea that you can hate me just because I believe in people's actual freedoms in this country, including the freedoms of people who definitely have a lack of respect for me, that's what's wrong. So I truly believe that, like, y'all ain't crazy and y'all know what's right and y'all know what's wrong, but like, hopefully we can encourage other people to kind of lead with love and understanding, instead of always hate. Like, hate the game, hate the politics, hate the system, and try to educate so that hopefully we can get somewhere. I know that they're preaching, like, let's not educate people, but like, education is the antidote. Education will allow us to understand what democracy really stands for. Education allows us to fully understand that freedom is not just for a select few people. Education will allow us to understand that we are being robbed literally, like, in our faces, while all of our money is being then elevated and sent to the top. We got to do more to educate ourselves. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. I now have to get to work. I got to make sure that I'm ready for Cash Patel. So talk to y'all soon. Love you.